Back in 2018, we saw the release of A Quiet Place, and I remember my cinema experience very vividly because it was the most silent audience I've ever seen. Like if you opened a chocolate bar too loud or slurped your drink a bit too loud, you get people noticing because the tension on screen, I mean, you could cut that with a knife.
Mr. Simpson, I'm scared.
Relax, stupid.
We then got A Quiet Place Part 2, which released during the pandemic, where we followed that same family from the first film, but this time with the inclusion of Cillian Murphy's character. Like with many sequels, it wasn't quite up to the same standard as that original film, but it still shared many of the same elements and was a solid addition to this universe. Now we have A Quiet Place Day 1, which is a prequel, which you might expect with that title, and this follows a character called Sam, who's played by Lupita Nyong'o, as we see her navigate through New York City on the day one of the alien attack. Now the premise of this film really intrigued me because I'm quite a sucker for those early stages of an apocalypse. I love to see how characters react, what they do in such a devastating situation. And when you're watching a film like this, you're just waiting for that big thing to happen. Like, you know it's going to happen, but you're just seeing these characters live their normal life, and then suddenly strike, there it is. And you know how they actually react to that. And it was quite shocking when we do see everything take place, because it's in New York as well, which I do establish at the start of the film how loud this city is, and then to suddenly just go completely quiet because of this invasion was quite impactful. In those early stages before the attack, we do learn that Lupita Nyong'o's character Sam is in a hospice. She has a bit of an attitude, and she wants to get pizza while on a group trip to New York City. Even after this alien attack, she still wants to go to Harlem to get this pizza, so she takes her cat called Frodo, and off she goes, and along the way, she meets a character called Eric, who's played by Joseph Quinn. The bond between these two characters grows as the film goes on, and it's essential for your enjoyment that you believe this connection between the two of them, because they are the emotional core of the movie. In the first two Quiet Place films, we follow the Abbott family, and it was easy to connect with them straight away because in that first film we see the shocking death of one of the kids, and that's quite a way to start a movie. Really does show the horror and the threat they are facing. And so with that, you've already seen some tragedy within this family, and so you're supporting them now on their journey in their fight to try and stay alive against these death angels. However, when it comes to A Quiet Place Day 1, we see Sam, we understand she's in a hospice, we understand she wants this pizza, but we don't know until a bit later on why that pizza is so significant. And so we're just seeing this character go on a bit of a side quest, and we're thinking, why are you doing this? Isn't that a bit stupid to try and go for something so minimal in this world which is falling apart? So when you look between her and her cat, I mean, her cat is probably the smarter character because the cat is very quiet, it doesn't meow, it is understanding of the rules set by these aliens, and it makes sure that it doesn't get itself killed. And just on the cat, if you are a cat fan, this one does have quite a lot of screen time, so much so that at one point I thought, are we going to just sort of have like a Stray movie within this A Quiet Place film? So as I said, you're not completely on board with this main character's objective, and it does take some time within the film until Eric is introduced. Once Sam and Eric do cross paths, there are a few sweet scenes between the two of them, but the issue is, on one hand, you have Sam, a character who we're not fully behind, and then you have Eric, who's a character where we get very little detail about him for us to really care about this character. And so when the film gets to those action scenes, the film has to pull us up a bit to try and make us care more about the outcome of these two characters. And that's a shame really, because there are some decent action scenes in this film, but it never got to that same level of tension as the first two movies, and even the horror was lacking here because again, you just didn't have that investment in what's going on. Instead, my interest was more focused on the situation as a whole. Seeing how the military would respond, seeing how people would react to these death angels and how quickly they could adapt to their hearing abilities. But the film doesn't really go through that learning process for these aliens. Instead, it's just, you know, let's be quiet so we don't alert them to our presence, but it doesn't really establish so well that these people are understanding that actually they have to be really silent because of their high sensitivity hearing. There are many elements of A Quiet Place Day 1 where you can give it a green tick. One being the acting. I think everyone put on a good show with the material they had, especially Lupita Nyong'o as that lead. You know, she has that face required for a role which we have very little dialogue to show what she's feeling in the moment. As I said, there are some decent action scenes, there's some beautiful cinematography, and the score really does become a character within itself. But with all that being said, at the end of the day, this is a horror film, and it really lacked that intensity required to get you glued to the film. And so I wasn't, gripping the arms of my chair. Instead, I was slipping down my chair as I was falling asleep. The film does have a strong finish, but it all just felt a little too little too late. and out of all the Quiet Place films, this is the only one where I wouldn't really want to watch it again. The other two, yes, this one, you go and watch it on your own. I have heard good things about the director Michael Sarnowski's other film called Pig, which starred Nicolas Cage, so I will have to check that out at some point. But for Quiet Place Day 1, I think this is not worth your time in the cinema. Maybe do check it out though when it comes to streaming if you are a massive fan of A Quiet Place. But I just think as a prequel, I was just expecting so much more. And you might be asking, why did you expect so much from this prequel? And the reason is, in the first two films we followed the family, but here we now get to see the world expanded, we see a different environment, we see different people's reactions to this devastation. And so when you have all that, but you also have a small scale story where we have a character looking for a pizza, it all just feels so lightweight. And especially when this character isn't really caring about their own existence, why should I? John Krasinski did not direct this film, but he did help with the story. And I do hope that when we do get to A Quiet Place Part 3, he will go back into the director's chair. Even with my criticisms of A Quiet Place Day 1, I do believe that it will make some money because it's got a budget of $67 million, and those first two films made around $300 million themselves. With the first film being the most impressive at the box office, considering that budget was only $17 million. A Quiet Place Day 1 has had many positive reviews from numerous outlets, but I have to go against that and say that I just felt like I was a bit shortchanged with this one. I still, like I said, enjoyed many of the different elements here, but as a film, it's one which won't last long in the memory. But of course, I'd love to know your thoughts on the film. Were you a bit bored like myself at times, or did you think this was a fantastic addition? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. And if you'd like to watch another video on screen or a couple of my recent reviews.